day not long ago, I was browsing YouTube and I came across one of those polymatter videos. You know, the ones that take apart a company, organization, or country's strategy for existence. And it happened that this one explored how North Korea, a widely hated regime, has stayed alive for so long. Surprisingly, this video started with a very provocative claim that Kim Jong-un was one of the smartest leaders on Earth. I was shocked by this, but by the end of the video, I have to say I agreed. Apparently, Kim's strategy as leader comes in three parts. First, use their nuclear capabilities to threaten the authority of Western nations. Second, attend talks to denuclearize. And third, successfully obtain benefits such as sanction reductions or economic support to bolster their struggling country in return for denuclearizing, which never really happens. And the cycle continues every 5 to 10 years, and every time they get exactly what they need to survive. It looks like it's about time for that cycle to repeat in the Biden era. So the question is brought before us today: what challenges will North Korea present to the Biden administration? And I believe they will present three clear challenges. First, they will, as I described earlier, repeat their nuclear threats in return for support for their faltering economy. Second, they will require international aid after COVID-19 potentially cripples their healthcare infrastructure. And third, they could have a Korean Peninsula crisis on hand if Kim's health fails and a successor has to prove themselves on the national and global scale. Let's begin. As I said before, Kim's strategy is about to repeat. His economy is failing and he needs to assert dominance on the global scale. The first challenge North Korea will present to the Biden administration is they will repeat their nuclear threats in return for support for their faltering economy. According to The Diplomat, on November the 10th, the most likely course of action for Kim after Biden takes office is to order a series of short-range missile tests to show that U.S. military bases in the South are in range, and possibly even a long range to show the U.S. mainland is also in range. According to Time on November the 9th, Kim has a record of carrying out provocations early on in each U.S. presidency, and in their current state are even more desperate and dangerous than before. According to the Wilson Center on November the 10th, during President Trump's 4 years in which he was very lenient and friendly to North Korea, Kim has significantly expanded his nuclear arsenal and would be less likely to, take into consideration and save up weapons for later. He would use them to assert his dominance immediately. Another traditional North Korean move is to demand foreign aid from humanitarian associations. And I believe the second challenge North Korea will present to the Biden administration is that they will require international aid after COVID-19 potentially cripples their healthcare infrastructure. According to NPR on November the 27th, Kim is enacting increasingly strict orders to prevent COVID because they claim there aren't any cases, and obviously they're preventing it, but it's looking more like the orders are actually geared toward reducing the spread because of the nature of what he's doing in the country. CDC is already acting on intelligence to claim that COVID levels in North Korea are very high. In fact, when I visited their website today, the current travel advisory encourages travelers to avoid all travel to North Korea and puts North Korea on the same scale of travel advisory as Italy is currently. According to Brookings on April the 20th, North Korea is acknowledging its failing healthcare infrastructure and has been acquiring since April, when this article was written, in secret, healthcare materials from allies in anticipation of a COVID outbreak in their nation. According to VOA News Korea on April the 14th, the North Korean healthcare system has been ranked 193 out of the 195 countries ranked and remains the most ill-prepared to handle a pandemic in 2020. And finally, the unthinkable could become a reality during Biden's presidency. The third challenge North Korea will present to the Biden administration is they could have a Korean Peninsula crisis on hand if Kim's health fails and a successor must prove themselves on the national and global scale. According to Vox on April the 23rd, Kim is extremely obese, as we all know. He smokes and he's believed to have severe gout. All details causing turmoil and rumors to explode when he disappeared from state media for a few weeks in April following an important surgery. And even though nothing happened then, According to MIT on May the 8th, his successor would likely be from the Kim family and have an even more aggressive foreign policy than Kim did. In fact, Kim's sister, a possible successor, has echoed many of the beliefs Kim held while he is in office. MIT, again, the same article on May the 8th, tells us that North Korea would be on pins and needles, and potential leaders could launch internal conflict or external attacks to gain control of the regime forcefully, even if a successor was designated before Kim died. South China Morning Post on April the 27th tells us that there are many possible successors in the Kim family, each possible to be the next leader, but the one closest is Kim's sister. However, as we see in many conservative Eastern societies, a female leader would cause turmoil or even unrest, as male leaders believe they're more suited to take on the job. So this brings us back to our question today: what challenges will North Korea present to the Biden administration? And I believe there are three clear challenges. First, they will, as I described earlier, repeat their nuclear threats in return for support for their faltering economy. Second, they will require international aid after COVID-19 potentially cripples their healthcare infrastructure. And third, they could have a Korean Peninsular crisis on hand if Kim's health fails and a successor has to prove themselves on the national and global scale. So in conclusion, maybe I've convinced you that Kim is the smartest leader in the world, and maybe you're convinced I'm just as insane as Kim for thinking that, and that he's just an obese Asian lunatic. But either way, the Biden administration is in for somewhat of a struggle with North Korea in the next 4 years. The mysterious undertakings of the Korean People's Government will always keep us in suspense as to their next move. The Polymatter video concludes by claiming that at every loop in the cycle of their success, democratic nations will claim victory over North Korea. But North Korea will also claim victory over us. But who's the real winner? We end where we were, but North Korea now has a seat at the international table, increased influence, has its security guaranteed, and has picked up some extra cash along the way. I'll leave you the judge of that golden question. Thank you.